Hi, I'm just a fat little Asian man. Ever dislike somebody so much you made a group chat just to trash talk about them? Like, the one thing that brings the chat all together is your mutual hatred? Well, I haven't, because in Asia, we trash talk in person. Honestly, I just needed a opening for my video here. Seems kind of like a smooth brain move, but these guys here, they did it anyways. They allegedly hated China so much that they made their own group chat to diss on China. Some might call it cyberbullying, but they call it the Quad, short for the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. Don't let the questionable naming sense fool you though, as the Quad has been quietly building up its potential to be one of the most important coalitions in 21st century geopolitics. Before we take a look into the Quad, let's look at the playground first, the Indo-Pacific, probably the most complicated and increasingly tense part of the world right now. Just the fact that it spans half the Earth's surface means it's home to 49 different countries, making it very complex here. But that doesn't matter anyways because these two guys here, they make it all about them and their feud. Why are these guys fighting, you may ask? Well, to dumb it down, this guy thought he was the main character, but this guy here wants to be the main character too. The problem was that China here was becoming kind of a bully. The US is kind of a bully too, but that's a whole separate issue, and I'm not going to make a video about that right now. You see, China here was kind of rich, and often floundered his massive GDP to gain some friends. But if you said something China didn't like, it took away all that money and started using it to build artificial islands with a strong military around your territorial waters. Naturally, a lot of countries didn't enjoy being bullied too, but they couldn't say no to cold hard cash given by China, and also were too weak to stand up to China's military directly. Except for maybe this guy, Japan. Japan hates China and China hates Japan, probably due to the fact that Japanese committed several massive war crimes and massacres during World War II. So naturally, Japan really doesn't want to let China become the main character. It's just that there's one problem. Japan's economy and military strength is big enough to not be completely squashed by China, but it's not going to be able to deal with it alone. So it follows the wisdom of the great Sun Tzu. Even the strongest can't handle being fucking mobbed, and goes to look for some friends to mob China with. Japan remembered a team project called the Tsunami Core Group. Back in 2004, it was created after a massive 9.3 magnitude earthquake around northern Indonesia triggered a tsunami that devastated coastal regions in the Indian Ocean. In the immediate aftermath, these guys came together to coordinate relief and rescue efforts. They really knew what they were doing. The US deployed aircraft carriers and several support ships within days. India quickly mobilized military and civilian assets to affected regions, while Japan and Australia, with their experience on disaster relief, sent equipment, aircrafts, ships, and medical teams. It was effective, pragmatic, and fast, as each country used their substantial naval and logistical capabilities. Japan needed some friends it could count on, and to Japan, these looked like some very dependable guys. Ones you would even give your back to in an alley fight, maybe. So in 2007, Japan called up the boys and tried to create the Quad. However, it didn't really work out. There just wasn't a clear reason for the Quad to exist. It honestly felt like Japan just wanted to hang out with its buddies. It was a lot different in 2017. China wasn't as assertive and coercive as last time. There was more risk than reward here, especially for Australia, which was worried about losing its booming Chinese trade. Personally, if I was a country, I wouldn't want to lose $49 billion either. So, Australia left the chat, leaving Japan in the dust. But remember, it's 2017. A big orange man is now in charge of the US. Before President Trump, the US was more, oh yes, the China is kind of concerning, but now, China was the US's top priority. India was fresh off a tense border standoff with China in the Doklam region. It was like a scene directly from a Bollywood movie, with troops glaring at each other from opposite mountaintops. It realized it needed more security and friends. Australia was also pretty shaken too. An Australian senator was recently kicked out of parliament as he was getting illegal funding from Chinese businesses. Influence campaigns were popping up in universities, media outlets, government tech systems, and even yoga meditation centers. Anyway, Japan never forgot about the boys too. When the US started pushing for a Quad revival, Tokyo was all in. Finally, the group chat was alive again. You might be wondering why I call the Quad a group chat. Well, that's basically what it is. Look at its full name, the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. It basically means four guys talking about their problems. It's informal, just regular check ins and coordination. They talk about whatever matters, really. It's exclusive, just the four of them, and nobody's really going to leak the group chat, right? It's not an organization, it's a dialogue. Compare that to NATO. That's a fully fledged military alliance. It has a permanent headquarters with a clear command structure, a treaty with actual binding commitments. An attack on one is an attack on all. The Quad, though, not so much. No treaties, no mutual defense. They just kind of talk shit on China, to be honest. Don't let the group chat vibe fool you, though. The talks here aren't like the 20 YouTube memes you've shared within your unemployed group chats. Each one of the members is some of the biggest economies with the most capable militaries. The decisions made here can affect the entirety of the Indo-Pacific. The most important thing here is how the Quad operates. Subtle and quiet. Let's compare it to a different alliance in the region, AUKUS. It makes the headlines with nuclear submarines and advanced military tech. It's purposely low noisy and loud, and it's about sending a message to China. But the Quad, it tiptoes like a Looney Tunes villain, and you've probably never really heard about it too. More into less headline worthy areas like vaccine distribution, undersea cables, cybersecurity, and supply chains. I mean, that's really boring, right? But that's the genius of it. Vaccine distribution touches on China's most sensitive subject, COVID 19. Cybersecurity is in response to Chinese state controlled technologies. Infrastructure projects against China's Belt and Road Initiative, scholarship programs to foster talent networks among allies. The Quad's own working group to counter China's control over supply chains. All these passive and indecisive looking outcomes. This is how you build regional influence without triggering alarms. It's setting up rules and infrastructure, so when the time comes, these democracies can act fast together, just like they did in 2004. In fact, this quieter mode of operation gives the Quad a kind of ambiguity. Of course, the Quad has its problems. There's no legal binding, meaning that excluding their anti Chinese sentiment, there isn't much holding it together. That's by design, yes, it keeps things more light and flexible, but it also means there are no guarantees. It has the structural integrity of being held up by digestive biscuits. But not that it really matters, honestly, because countries suck at keeping promises with or without a treaty. There are also cracks within the Quad itself. India still wants to stay independent and keep close ties with Russia. Japan and Australia still rely heavily on trade with China. The US is juggling global fires constantly while failing to focus on Asia. This is the moment where the Quad either really grows or just disappears. If they can keep building real projects, investing in tech and infrastructure, they could become the most significant thing in the region. But if they fail, it's just going to be another annoying acronym that I have to learn in politics class. If the Quad were to fail, it won't just be disappointing, it will send a message that even these big shot democracies couldn't make things work. More importantly, it would create a power vacuum in the region, which just basically means China could potentially control the region without much obstacle. You really need that luck keeping the group chat alive, guys. You guys are going to need it. Being a content creator is the Asian 101 guide to being a massive disappointment. If you've enjoyed this video and like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching.